Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This week is show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sweet Home Season 1, Episode 9. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. The penultimate episode of the season. We start off in the aftermath of last episode. They are burying Jae-hyun, and obviously you have Jisoo in the background, and she goes off on her own, and she tried to, I think, keep it together in that moment, but then she breaks down, and we see the final conversation they had together. He's like, I'm nervous and scared, and I'm surprised I want to admit this in this situation, but I like you, Jisoo. And she's like, is that God's will? He's like, no, it's my own. So of course he's going to confess that he likes you, which I had read that a little bit earlier on in the season. I was like, felt like they might have been hinting at it, but I was like, maybe I'm reading too much into it. It's like, no, it was there. They did seem like they clicked. I mean, out of any characters, they did spend a lot of time together over the course of the show. So it is sad that those were his final words to her. You could just, it beats her up so much, because I guess maybe it's that situation of, hey, if I was in a better situation, maybe I could have helped out. So it's the wishing you could have done more, wish things had done going differently. And obviously she has a very brash way of going about it, but Eon you is trying to comfort her and try to, hey, like, don't beat yourself up over it. It's like, right, you might want to feel miserable right now, don't drown yourself in that misery, because it's like, right, you want to blame yourself for it. And she's like, right, what about my circumstances? And then we finally get to know what her situation was. Her parents died in a car accident because she wanted to go to a ballet, and her dad was tired, but she made a fuss about it, and they went, and it was a car accident situation, and they died. And for her, it's like, I made myself an orphan. And it wasn't just even me. She's like, I made my brother an orphan. So they had already talked about the fact is, I had made that comment of they're not even half siblings, because there's no blood relation for her to be like, you're not even my real brother. So it has to be like their step sibling situation. And she even says this line of, if without our parents, we're not even family. They're and that's why I think there's a lot of complicated resentment there, because she's feeling all sorts of like feelings. I think a little bit of guilt, and also her brother dropped out of school. That's why he never finished any like medical like degree or whatever. It's because he dropped out of school to make sure that, because she wanted to do ballet, and like he like focused on her needs, and she didn't want to feel indebted to her brother, so she wanted to give ballet her all, like, so she could eventually pay him back. But her ankle got to the point that she can't do it anymore. That's what the resentment was, why she probably like kind of lashes out a little bit, why she comes off a little rough around the edges. It's just like there's a lot of anger build up inside, and sadness of life playing out the way that it did. And I think that's why she tries to be so stone cold. And I keep attributing it to her, but her brother is exactly the same. Both of them try to keep as much of a stone, like they try not to let their feelings show. They want to be as kind of like stoic as possible, because that's their way of kind of controlling things. I mean, it's their way of wrestling control in life that feels so out of control. And it just kind of showcasing, might not be related by blood, but they're still siblings, because they still both kind of equate that quality. I mean, I consider these circumstances, maybe it's a good quality, maybe it didn't always serve them in their everyday life when the world wasn't the way it is right now, but it's still this situation of, I don't know. It is kind of an interesting thing. Like I said, I've attributed a lot of her stoicness of like her overcompensating. That's what I've kind of said the entire season. But once again, I've never really attributed the fact is, her brother's exactly the same way. They're kind of cut from the same cloth, despite not being blood related. I mean, you spend enough time around someone, blood relation or not, they are still family, and a lot of who they are rubs off on you. It's kind of, I guess, it's both of their ways of how they dealt with the trauma of losing their parent. What I also thought was kind of neat about the whole Jae-hyun situation too is Samwook being there and pouring the drink, being like, "You can drink all you want to now, buddy." Almost like hey, like you'd have to hold yourself back in life, but it's like, hey, here, kind of, he lost I think the closest thing he's probably had to a friend in a while, even a somewhat non-drinking drinking buddy in regards. And it is sad, because that's the only other character other than Yuri, that's the only other character he's gotten close to over the course of the series, because they're the ones that have, like, out of any character, Jae Hyun's the one that he had the most interactions with too. So it's a gut punch of like, yeah, I lost I'd go as far as saying they were friends, even if Sun Wook probably would never put those words to it. They were friends. They had a lot of conversations that I think will stick with Sun Wook in his continuation. So then we also catch up with the military for a little bit. They found like one of their convoys, and there's like dead bodies everywhere. We do see like some severed fingers. I'm like, what the hell happened here? So they're planning on rolling out. And so when Mr. An, Yi Kyung, and the little boy catch a military vehicle, I was like, is that the military rolling up? Because even Yi Kyung was looking at the device. She hadn't pressed it. So it's like, how did they find us? You know, because they also had taken down the SOS signal. So it's like, how they end up finding us? I guess it's tracing back to that radio signal last episode. I guess that gave them enough of a point of where to go. But when they strolled up, I'm like, why are they not slowing down? And they bust through. I'm like, will the military really do that? And we find out, oh, it's not the military. It's some people who stole. I mean, they could be ex-military, but it seems like more like they're just like, for lack of a better term, like criminals, but like hooligans who stole it and came busting in here, setting the rules. They're like rounding everyone up and putting them in a giant circle. It's like, yeah, this is your jail now. Oh, it's bigger than the last one we made, so they've done this before. And the first victim is Ji Eon, which is so sad, dude, because they couldn't really do much for her because Eon Hyuk was telling Hyun to wait for an opportunity, because yeah, you might be able to survive stuff, but you kind of are a secret weapon, and if you go out there, like, there's too many of them and they're locked and loaded. They don't have many weapons, but it's like, if we wait for an opportunity, we'll have an opportunity to strike. But it sucks that she had to die and just like no one could do anything for her in that moment, which is so sad too. I think it really strikes a chord with Hyun too, because she was the first one of the group to really like reach out to him and say something to him like 2 or 3 episodes ago. So it makes him probably feel a little more powerless of like, I can't do anything for you, and she dies. It's like, shit, damn, dude. Like it's getting to that point where you're like, is our cast going to start dropping like flies? We've got a pretty beefy cast, and like I said, I have no idea who's going to make it out of this. But I think the leader of the group, his name was it Jung Seong, maybe? I can't remember. But yeah, he just looks like a complete another sociopath. And it's like they're doing this just to do it. And obviously, Eon Hyuk is trying to keep everyone alive, because it's like by kind of standing out a little bit, you're going to ensure that you survive, and you're trying to make sure everyone else is kept alive too. Because it's like, oh, because they found out about Jisoo because one of the guys on the squad is a sociopath that's really into Jisoo, and he wants to keep her as his thing later on. Like, it's just like, oh god, you guys are disgusting. It's like, I mean, you can't have an apocalyptic situation without humans just being batshit crazy and just evil just for evil's purposes. They're doing the whole thing of like, oh yeah, we're gonna kill monsters. All monsters have to die, which is, I mean, I get it from the perspective of, hey, you're trying to survive. But my point where I was going with that is like, but you're the monsters. That's the irony. You're trying to kill monsters when you yourselves have become monsters. Might not be transformed, but you're still monsters. Mr. On trying to protect the little boy by like surrendering himself and trying to make sure they don't find out about Sang Wook. He was like, oh, here being like, oh, kid, didn't your parents give you in a paper? Like, why you got those tattoos on your face and so on and so forth, trying to distract him. He even put the little boy in the vents so that it's like, right, we're playing secret agent. Your mission is to, stay safe and stay hidden. I'd forgot to talk about it too. Well, I mean, it's not too late to kind of bring it up, but the soldier that they found, now we kind of understand what he was running from. I was like, are you running from your own duty? What it was, he escaped that massacre situation. And maybe they had captured all those soldiers because they were still trying to get the case open, which we have no idea what the hell is inside of that. Maybe it's research or something related to all of this, but they are trying to get thumbprints. They tried to use this guy's particular thumbprint but couldn't open it. I guess like either it's tied to a very specific thumbprint, or maybe it has to be someone of a very particular ranking. I don't know if the biometrics would be like keyed to something like that. It has to just be a specific thumb, but they killed everyone in that unit, so it's got to be tied to someone else's thumbprint. I'm curious whose. It'd be interesting in the long run if it ended up being like Songwan's, or maybe that the lady that Yi Myung, not Yi Myung, Yi Kyung interacted with, the main military woman we've seen. She was the one that was on television. She's the one that like was leading the squad that got Yi Kyung and sent her back to the apartment building. So not listed specifically tied to her biometrics or her fingerprint more specifically. I think they're just keeping it because they're like, right, there's got to be something of value in here. They don't know and they don't care, but it's got to be valuable enough for the military to be holding on to it. So it's worthwhile finding out what it is. It's just a little plot device that's in the background because Yi Kyung snuck it off the vehicle and they never were none the wiser that it was taken from them. Because it's just, yeah, I mean, of course it's going to be in the back of their mind because it's pointless. It's like, well, keeping it's fine and dandy, but no one here can open it because no one else here has military credentials or would be even the military to open it. So, well, speaking of military, we did find out about Yi Kyung. She isn't just a firefighter. She was in special forces. I also love that we find out Sang-wook doesn't know how to use a gun because I guess he avoided military service. Maybe it has something to do with like his upbringing, considering his dad died and he just kind of, I guess, fell out of the system. So he was just kind of on his own for so long that the government didn't keep up with him. He just kind of slipped through it since he never went through military. But because, once again, that's mandatory. It's mandatory for everyone, man or woman, to serve in the military in South Korea. It's one of those things where it's like you meet the bad humans and you're just like, oh, I cannot wait for our characters to get their moments to put these bastards down. But it's not before they did more damage. They end up shooting. And Young, she didn't go down like without a fight. She like stabbed him, and I was like hoping someone would interrupt because Eon Hyuk tried to be like, no, some monsters are like, it doesn't matter what he would have said, they were going to still do what they were going to do, but it gave them extra motivation of, oh yeah, she's a monster, we put them all down. It's like he was trying to say like, oh, she's not dangerous. He's like, yeah, but then while you have her locked up, your hypocrisy comes with a huge cost, and like shot her through the head. It's just like, damn, dude. And it's still heartbreaking too because she was holding on for so long. She was like, right, I've got 5 more days. You put up with shit for 30 years, her marriage, and it's like I can handle 5 more days because I forgot to talk about it last episode, but Yi Kyung told her all you have to do is hold on for 5 more days and you'll be over the hardest part of all of this. And she was holding on for it. And it's just like, it sucks that things kind of played out this way. Because if they hadn't killed her, who knows if she would have been a special case to hold on. Probably wouldn't have, considering how things played out, how she's still in that golden hour where like the monster kind of takes over more, so she comes to attack because she's in the state that she's in, because I guess she's treating it like Eong Hyuk betrayed her, so she tried to go after him, but Hyun gets in the way and blocks the attack, and he ends up being the one that kind of strangles her and kills her. And, obviously he's apologetic. It is sad that it went down this way, especially when she was asking like beforehand, and especially because she made such apology to him. It's just a rough situation because this is also his first time actually killing someone. Like, the monster thing aside, she was still human enough, so it is that line of I killed a human. He hadn't crossed that line up to this point. Even if she was in that transitional state, she was still human enough that it was the same as killing a person. That's the whole reason why they started the voting process, because it's like, oh, the home dude was like, yeah, I don't want to be a murderer, and sadly things played out this way. I'm glad Creepy Dude got his just dessert. When he was going after Jisoo earlier, it's like, well, I know that Eon Yu gave her Jaehyun's broken sword, and I was hoping she have it by her side and then stab up and stab him, but she just kind of, I guess, waiting for her moment, she was just kind of acting weak and not a threat that he could always come back to her later. So I guess she was playing like she was passed out, but it's like, oh, he knows she's still alive, but it's like, oh, he's kind of in a sick, twisted way, he's playing with his food. But later on, she's ready for, like, her and Yuri work together to kill him, and it's actually Yuri in the end who kills. It isn't just Hyun who kills a human this episode, it's also her, which I even love that Sang-wook comes in. It's like, don't worry, you didn't kill, that guy was a monster, like, you didn't kill a human, to make her feel better, because she started having an asthma attack, and luckily he showed up in time and gave her her inhaler, because she dropped it because of what she was going to. I mean, obviously it's like the stress and high adrenaline of the situation, plus like the trauma of like, oh my god, I killed a person. That's also got to be rough on their eyes, like that. I'm assuming it's got to be some kind of dye. I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't know enough about movie magic of like the concoctions they use to make fake blood, but I'm assuming it'd be like water and some dye. But that's the second time we've seen it land in someone's eye. I'm just like, ugh, it just because eye stuff makes because I think my eyes are really sensitive, so like I hate eye stuff in particular, like more. But it's also like when you're seeing it drip into their eyes, you're just like, oh god, that had to be horrendous to film that. Because like I said, it happened with her and it happened with Eon Yu in the second episode with the blood splatter. You could literally see it like fly into her eye, and she just had to keep the scene going. I'm like, that's got to be rough. Like maybe it doesn't sting as much as I think it does, but when I look at it, I'm like, oh, it makes me want to rub my own eyes. I'm rubbing my eyes right now during this recording, just thinking about it. But I'm just kind of glad that that bastard got his just due dessert, and it feels poetic for it to be Jae-hyun's sword it ended up doing. I was like, oh, you deserve it, you piece of shit, you creep. I also love the rest of the squad got taken down. I love that Yi Kyung like snapped the dude's neck. Obviously, she was heartbroken about the situation with Seong because even if she wasn't dead, she definitely was dead this time because they made sure to burn her body after Hyun ended up killing her. But they saw Hyun was relatively human enough, but they saw like, oh, but you got a special case here in front of us. They're not too caught up in like, once again, the military hadn't made a public announcements until like near the end of the episode about the special infectees. But in this particular case, it's just like, oh, you're a monster, a monster's a monster, so they like wanted to toy around with them. They was trying to see like if we drop them off top of the building, because I think it was something that Eon Hyuk was also referencing, that he was probably hoping that they could spare enough time that they could use. I mean, no, there are no more monsters in the building except for one, which we'll get to in a second. But because most of the monsters are outside. But to be fair, we still haven't seen half a face since he got thrown out, so he might actually be dead for all I know. But we saw Big Dude is still alive. I'd assume he killed Tentacle Tongue, because we haven't seen it since it got attacked by the big thing after feeding on Yoonjae's body. So we haven't seen any of them outside, and every other monster is potentially dead. But there was the one that ended up saving a little kid. It's like a slime monster. I'm like, who the hell is that then? Because at first I was wondering, is that supposed to be Seong Yeong? But it wasn't her because she hadn't transformed yet. So I was like, who the hell is a green slime? Because that just kind of goes on its own way. Because back when Hyun was captured by that creature and was webbed up, there was like green slime on the web. So I was like, was something trying to protect him at that time? I'm like, I don't know who else that would be. Like everyone else is kind of accounted for, so I don't know what that monster's circumstances are, or who that could be. Like it just kind of happens in the episode, especially because Yi Kyung and Sang-wook were like cautious of it, but the little kid was like, no, it protected me, it saved me, leave it alone. And it kind of scurries on its own way in events. So I'm like, okay, maybe the season finale will cover like what the hell that is. You also got to give it to the resident squad, because they were still doing, like, when they had their opportunity to strike, they did. They grabbed that one dude, they split his legs, and they were like ramming him against like that pillar. I was like, ooh, but they didn't sadly get to kill the guy. But after like most of the squad went upstairs with Hyun, the few that were left, one was killed by Yi Kyung, and one of them was still around, and he ended up grabbing I think Miss Han as a hostage, and ended up shooting. Because at the time I was like, I don't see who he shot, but it seems like it's Dusik that he ended up shooting. And I love that, like, right when because he got Yi Kyung to drop her weapon, and then because he's such a bastard, he decided to go hand to hand with it. And so the others like ended up grabbing him and like trying to hold him in place, and Yi Kyung like went for the headshot, which I love. One of the dudes that was holding him down being like trying to check his face, like, oh, did I get shot? He's like, Jesus, that was so close, you know. So, but all the while that's happening, Hyun is upstairs with the others, and I love that they're making this whole point of, oh, we're gonna throw him down there. And it's like, oh, look at Hyun, he's trying to survive, yada yada, so on and so forth. It's like, because the guy was like, oh, should I cut off his head? Should I cut out his intestines? It's like, oh, but do we really have to go that far? It's like, it doesn't matter. He's not, whether he's not even human anymore, but even if it was, would it really matter? And so when it's all said and done, Hyun's going towards the door. I was like, they're thinking he's going to try to live. I was like, he's not doing this to live. He's doing this to, like, he's locking you guys up here with him. And it's like, you're not I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me type of situation. I was like, yeah. But he didn't even get a really chance to like make a point of them because the guy that's with him, his name is spelled like U-I Myung, at least by the subtitles on Netflix. But so and I see his name elsewhere. I think it's the same name, Wooi. So it might be pronounced like, it might be like we or like Wooey. I don't know like the proper pronunciation. So I'm just gonna go with like we. We'll go with that from now. I don't know, because it makes me think of like the French, we as in yes, like OUI. So it's not the same, but it makes me wonder if it's supposed to be like that, or is it supposed to be we, or is it supposed to be like wooey, or I don't know. I'm gonna go with we for now. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. Myung. That guy already seemed a little weird because the guy that was interested in Jisoo, he told him like, "Yo, Jong Seong wants to see you." And when he went there, Jong Seong was like, "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, "Yo, Hongdu said you wanted to see me." He's like, "No, I didn't." And then he's back there shrugging his shoulder. I'm like, "What the fuck is this dude's deal?" He wasn't as active as the others were. And then all of a sudden, he ends up killing Hongdu, and I was like, You're a monster too. I was like, so why'd you wait so long? But for him, it's like, oh, because you crossed the line. I was like, is it because he went after Hyun and you and Hyun are kind of kindred spirits? Or was the crossing of the line him killing Seong Young? That was like, because he's looking at it like, oh yeah, I was a wolf in sheep's clothing. I was a wolf playing rabbit. But now there was no reason to play rabbit anymore. So he killed him. Because he's definitely on that, oh yeah, we as monsters are the superior species. It's like, it's going to be like that X-Men thing of we're a new breed of evolution and we're better than humans. You could definitely tell he's on that warpath. But the moment that was also introduced, I was like, you're the monster that you're the experiment that got away. They had talked about some that had gotten away, and I'm assuming, so I can only assume that means Sungwon is dead, maybe. And he's just being used as bait to kind of get Yi Kyung to do what the military wants her to do, but I'm pretty sure it's like, nah, he's dead. Most likely. But this guy must be the escaped experiment. Because I was wondering about it. I was like, who's it going to be? And so for it to be this, and it's like he ends up, because he got shot in the neck, and then all of a sudden, like something flew from the guy's neck and killed the guy that shot him. So I don't know if that was like he maybe has a lot more control over his body. So maybe he shot the bullet out and it shot it out like a rebound and like ended up killing him. I don't know, something shot out from his body and killed the guy. Now whether it was just him utilizing, maybe he can control his blood as a weapon like that, or maybe it was just the bullet itself. I have no idea. He somehow killed him and let the last guy go. And he goes over to Hyun and he's just like, right, and extends out his hand, and Hyun doesn't take it. It's like, considering his past trauma, there's no way he's going to be so quick to accept another hand like that. Especially because last time he extended his hand out, this time the hand is being extended out to him. So I thought that was such a curious situation. But when we did see the helicopter is dropping off these flyers, the military is gathering up special infectees, and we find out later on, hey, if you find any, we'll give you shelter and yada yada, so on and so forth. It's like, can you really trust the government with that? Who knows? Because that was something even Yi Kyung and Mr. On were talking about of, yeah, kind of learning that you can't quite trust the military, especially under these circumstances. They're the ones kind of controlling all the information they did know before this whole situation broke out into the full apocalypse that it has. They've known more than they've let on. I brought it up earlier. We saw that we found out that Dusic's the one that got shot. But then all of a sudden his body's just sitting there and we see like gushing of blood. So I guess he was still maybe in and out of it because his body was just sitting up because Mr. On left him there. I guess he was stuck in that position. But maybe he wasn't dead or whatever the case may be. Nose started bleeding, which he made it clear he wanted to die. Like that was the whole reason why he was keeping his weapon, because he wanted the last shot to be used on himself. So where that goes, we'll have to wait and see. But we still walked away with 2 of our group dying. Well, technically 3 because of Soldier, but he wasn't part of the crew, but still. So it sucks that we lost some lives in this situation. Seong Young and Ji Eun. But he ends up like pointing to the guy that was left alive by Woo Myung, being like, yo, I've got this flyer. It says, hey, you hand over some special infectees. So now, And even Home Dude is talking to Human. Really quickly, they go back to 1408 where Miss, like I said, I'm pronouncing it M because her last name's like I am. She is still in that state because Human was like, right, there are monsters that don't hurt humans. He's like, oh, this is one that doesn't. But he says, can you say the same thing? Not all monsters may hurt humans, but can you say the same thing? And now Human is put in that same situation he was with back in the past. Do you think these people will protect you? You're here protecting them, but do you think they'll look out for you? They'll look out for themselves. So now the question is, what side are you going to choose? He made his choice back then and saw how it worked out for him. So how are you going to handle this situation? What I think is so interesting too is like when they're in the elevator, he's looking at his reflection. Most of the reflections turn back, like look away like he does, but obviously one of them is kind of representing the infection, talking to him because it's still like staring at him. And the question is, what is he going to do? As the elevator is going down to the first floor, that's where everyone's waited. Guns are locked and loaded and ready for fire. And it's like, will Hyun choose? I definitely could see a situation where he decides to sacrifice himself for the others. Like, taking the choice away from them and making the decision himself of like, I'll protect you guys. I'll turn myself in because it means I might be able to help more people. And no one else has to die, and you guys get potentially taken care of in the process. So that could be his justification. That could be where we were at the beginning of episode 1. Because once again, he's the only one that walked out of that building, but that might have been by choice. So we'll have to wait to see. It also explains the giant hole in the because like, how did that happen? It's like, okay, because the vehicle like crashed into it, so that's why the giant hole was in front of the hotel. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the season finale takes us with all of this. What decision Hyun made? What is it? A decision he makes, or was it made for him? I think it's going to be a decision that he makes, and obviously his past is going to influence a lot of that. So how he handles the situation, is he going to work alongside? Like I'm going back and forth because part of me is like, I still want to say Wee Myung, but I want to say like I don't know what I want to say with his name. How to even go about pronouncing it. I want to say we, but I feel like it's not. Like me, I want to almost say like Woi. Like I say, it's like WOOI. Like I say, I'm horrendous. Specifically, like I think I could jack up like a Chinese name or a Japanese name, but I definitely feel like I'm more confident with Japanese names than I am Korean names. I just feel there's a lot of names from different like cultures and stuff, not even just Asian based, but there's like a lot of stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, I feel like I'd probably butcher that. Like Shuri Gatwa's name, it's just like I would have never really known to pronounce that Shuri. I mean, same thing like Saoirse Ronan. Would not have looked at her name thinking Saoirse. That's a whole. I'm going on this massive tangent. So, but to kind of wrap up, I'm so curious to see where the season finale takes us with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.